The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a brand new obsession.
Right. It was just an instant cultural reset for reality TV.
Completely. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today, we are doing a massive deep dive into a headline that honestly stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, I know exactly which one you mean.
Yeah, the story we are centering on today is Holly Madison just revealed where things stand with Kendra.
Which is wild because this feud has literally spanned over 14 years now.
Exactly. I mean, usually when a friendship ends, it is a slow, quiet fade. You know, texts go unanswered, or maybe someone moves to a new city.
Yeah, you just naturally become memories to each other.
Right, it is totally natural. But in the reality TV ecosystem, a friendship does not just fade, it detonates.
Oh, absolutely. The stakes in that ecosystem are entirely different than the ones you and I face in our normal lives.
Because you aren't just losing a friend. You are navigating a massive public relations crisis at the exact same time.
Wrapped in some deeply personal, emotional fallout. And what makes this specific feud so fascinating to explore is that it forces us to look at the actual mechanics of media manipulation.
Yes, how a billion-dollar machine actively feeds on relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And more importantly, how two people can survive the exact same toxic environment, but process that trauma in fundamentally opposite ways.
So to really understand how opposite those paths are, we have to look at the conflicting narratives they have built over the last decade.
Right. Because if you read Kendra's 2010 memoir, Sliding Into Home, and then you go listen to what Holly is saying on her current Girls Next Level podcast, it is staggering.
It really is. They don't even sound like they lived in the same universe, let alone the same house.
Not at all. But before we get into the present-day fallout, let's establish the baseline.
Good idea. So when The Girls Next Door wrapped its main run around 2009, the public narrative was that Holly, Kendra, and Bridget Marquardt were bonded for life.
Yeah, they survived this incredibly bizarre, highly publicized experience of dating Hugh Hefner simultaneously.
Right, and Holly and Bridget were even bridesmaids in Kendra's wedding. So to the outside world, they were this tight-knit trio.
But then the foundation cracked because, the reality TV machine demands a narrative, and narratives require conflict.
And that initial fracture became super public with the dueling memoirs, right?
Exactly. Kendra was the first out of the gate in 2010 with her book, and Holly followed up with Down the Rabbit Hole in 2015.
And the discrepancy between these two books isn't just like misremembering a date or a funny conversation.
No, they represent fundamentally different realities that were engineered to serve their personal brands.
That branding element is so obvious when you look at the specific claims Kendra made.
Oh, definitely.
Because in her book, she paints this picture of herself as the carefree outsider who is constantly targeted by the jealous, mean girls of the house.
Which Holly and Bridget have recently been debunking on their podcast.
And honestly, the details are almost comical. Like, Kendra claims that when she first moved into the Playboy Mansion, Hefner offered her room too.
Ah, yes, the famous room too.
Yeah, and Kendra says Bridget absolutely freaked out because she wanted that room to be her scrapbooking room.
Which is just hilarious. It logically collapses the second you understand the financial mechanics of the mansion.
Exactly, because Bridget pointed out how completely absurd that is. Room 2 is this massive rent-controlled suite.
Right, and Hefner actually had to pay rent on each individual room directly to the Playboy Corporation.
Yes, so the idea that Bridget would demand a giant, expensive suite just for some arts and crafts is ridiculous.
It makes no sense. And Kendra also claimed that Holly and Bridget tattled on her to Hefner for seeing other men.
Which both women flatly deny. They said they genuinely did not care what she did with her time. They just assumed she was at massage school.
But let's look deeper into the mechanics of why those specific lies were chosen. Why invent the scrapbooking anecdote?
Right, why include that?
Well, when a celebrity works with a ghostwriter to produce a memoir right after a reality show, the goal isn't historical accuracy. It is brand consolidation.
Ah, that makes perfect sense.
Kendra's brand was the relatable, sporty girl next door who didn't fit into the rigid Playboy mold. So to make that archetype work on the page, she needs antagonists.
So framing Holly and Bridget as these oppressive, rule-obsessed mean girls is just a deliberate narrative choice.
Exactly. It positions her as the underdog. She is essentially writing a spin-off season in book form.
But obviously, if you are Holly and you genuinely thought you were friends, reading that is going to sting.
Oh, absolutely. Which brings us to Holly's retaliation in 2015.
Right, and down the rabbit hole. And Holly does not hold back. She explicitly calls Kendra, quote, the fakest person I have ever met.
And the fallout from that was just nuclear.
It really was. Kendra went on her own show, Kendra on Top, and delivered this blistering statement declaring they were never friends.
Do you have the exact quote?
I do. Her exact quote was, "At the end of the day, what we did was we just fucked the same man. That is not friends."
Wow. It is just a devastatingly blunt reframing of a 5-year relationship.
Totally. She strips away the entire sisterhood narrative that the network sold to millions of viewers.
Yeah, she reduces their entire dynamic to purely transactional terms.
So I'm trying to put myself in their shoes here. Holly is sitting there genuinely thinking they are close.
Right.
She literally said in a recent interview, "Wait, I just sent your son a Christmas gift. We aren't friends."
She really thought the bond was real.
Yeah, she thought it was real. Meanwhile, Kendra is publicly declaring they were essentially just coworkers performing a job.
It is wild.
I want you, listening right now, to think about your own workplace for a second. Have you ever had a job that was incredibly stressful and you felt like you were in the trenches with a coworker?
Oh, totally. You bond over the chaos.
Exactly. But then one of you leaves and you realize, oh, we actually have nothing in common.
Right. The environment was the only thing holding you together.
Yes. Except in this case, one person thinks they survived a war together and the other person just wants to shred their ID badge and burn the building down.
The toxic workplace analogy is really good. But we actually need to look much deeper than just coworkers.
How so?
Well, in a normal toxic job, you get to go home at 5 o'clock. In the reality TV ecosystem, and specifically the Playboy Mansion, there is no home to go to.
That is a terrifying thought.
Your workplace is your bedroom. Your boss is your boyfriend. The psychological isolation is absolute.
Oh, wow.
And in this specific workplace, the chaos wasn't accidental. It was engineered by a literal manager, actively trying to turn the employees against each other to boost quarterly profits.
Wait, are we talking about a specific person pulling the strings here or just the general toxic culture of the mansion?
We are talking about a specific person, and we're going to name him right after this.
Okay, real quick, if you are loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you are subscribed. We have got even crazier stories ahead.
You definitely want to hit that subscribe button. Okay, so getting back to the Puppet Master.
Yes, who is this specific person?
Let's look at a recent 2026 revelation Holly made on the Hot Goss podcast. She explicitly names the executive producer, Kevin Burns.
Okay, Kevin Burns.
Burns was the showrunner for The Girls Next Door. But crucially, he was also the executive producer for both of their subsequent spin-off shows, Holly's World and Kendra.
Oh, so he had his hands in everything.
Exactly. And Holly revealed that Burns was deliberately playing them off one another.
How'd he do that?
He would tell Holly about Kendra's achievements just to make her jealous, and then he would go right over to Kendra and do the exact same thing about Holly.
This is the part that blows my mind because we watch these shows and think the drama is just people acting badly.
Right, you think it's authentic.
Yeah, but we don't see the mechanisms of it. How does a producer actually do that without the cast catching on?
It is all about controlling the flow of information and utilizing psychological isolation. Reality TV relies heavily on techniques that the audience never sees.
Like what kind of techniques?
Well, producers will physically separate cast members during long, grueling shoot days so they cannot compare notes.
Oh, so they can't even talk to each other to figure out the lies.
Exactly. And they utilize sleep deprivation. Then, a producer like Burns steps in, playing the role of a trusted confidant.
Just whispering in their ears.
Yes, he plants a seed of paranoia. So by the time the cameras are actually rolling, both women are already defensive, exhausted, and resentful.
That is so manipulative.
And furthermore, editors use tactics like frankenbiting. That is when they splice together audio from entirely different days to make it sound like cast members are insulting each other.
Wow. So the conflict we see on screen is genuinely felt by the cast, but the origin of that conflict is entirely synthetic.
Exactly. The emotions are real, but the trigger was manufactured.
And of course, the tabloid machine is waiting right outside the mansion gates to print whatever conflict gets stirred up.
Oh, they feed on it.
If Kendra's spinoff was facing a dip in ratings, she would suddenly lean into this feud for the press. It is this incredibly vicious cycle.
It really is. The producer plants the insecurity, the star reacts to protect their brand, the tabloids magnify it, and the network gets its ratings bump.
It is just systemic exploitation.
And the human cost of that machine is the complete destruction of their actual relationship. Which brings us to the final straw.
Right, because it didn't end with some dramatic on-camera shouting match, did it?
No, it ended quietly in a text message exchange in 2012.
Yeah, according to the timeline mapped out by fans on the Secrets of Playboy Reddit community, Holly finally confronted Kendra about some fake drama Kendra was feeding the tabloids.
And how did Kendra respond?
Kendra basically brushed it off, texting back something along the lines of, "Oh, don't worry, girl, that is nothing."
Dismissing it completely.
Completely. And Holly, who is clearly just exhausted by the constant manipulation, texted back, "I think you're being really fake right now."
Oh, man.
Yeah, and Kendra absolutely flipped out, and that's it. They've not spoken a single word to each other since 2012.
Which raises the most important question of this entire exploration.
What is that?
If Holly realized that Kevin Burns was the invisible hand manipulating them, and Burns passed away in 2020, and the show's been off the air for over a decade.
Right. Why not just bury the hatchet?
Exactly. Why not let it go?
That is exactly what I do not understand. The puppet master is gone. The show is over. They are both in their 40s now.
It seems like it should be easy to move on.
Yeah. Why is this massive brick wall still up between them 14 years later?
Well, to answer that, we have to look past the reality TV mechanics and delve into the psychology of trauma.
Okay, let's get into it.
The analysis from the Reddit community is incredibly insightful here. It all comes down to a fundamental, irreconcilable difference in how they view Hugh Hefner and the reality of their time at the mansion.
Okay, let's unpack that, because their descriptions of the exact same house sound like two entirely different universes.
Very different.
Holly has been very vocal that the mansion was a twisted world. The Reddit threads really highlight the day-to-day reality of that environment.
Like the strict 9 o'clock curfews.
Yes, the curfews, the fact that the women were not allowed to have outside jobs, and the total financial control Hefner held over them.
It was incredibly isolating.
Holly has talked openly about how that psychological manipulation drove her to severe depression and even suicidal thoughts.
Right.
So she is actively using her podcasts and books to process that trauma. She is exposing the dark reality behind the glamorous facade to dismantle that legacy.
Confronting the past is her mechanism for healing.
Exactly. But then you look at Kendra.
Right, because before Kendra moved into the mansion, she was on a very dark path.
Yeah, she's written extensively about dealing with severe drug issues, living with a dealer, and struggling simply to survive.
So Hefner brought her into an environment that, yes, had strict rules and curfews. But to her, it was a structured safe haven.
Wow, that is such a different perspective.
Because she views Hefner as a savior who literally pulled her out of a dangerous life, she spent years aggressively defending him.
So when Holly publishes a book exposing Hefner as a psychological abuser, Kendra cannot just nod and say, "Yeah, that was my experience too."
She absolutely cannot. If Kendra admits that Hefner was a predator, as Holly asserts, then Kendra has to reconcile the terrifying fact that her perceived savior was actually exploiting her.
That is a massive psychological bridge to cross.
It is much safer, mentally, to compartmentalize Holly as a jealous, mean girl than to confront the reality of systemic abuse.
Which brings us right into the complexities of the Me Too era.
Exactly.
You have two women who lived in the exact same house, sharing the exact same partner at the exact same time.
Right.
One views the man as an abuser and the other views him as a paternal rescuer. And both experiences are deeply real and entirely valid to them.
It is like two people surviving a catastrophic shipwreck.
Oh, I like this analogy.
They both somehow made it to the shore, but they remember the captain of the ship entirely differently.
Simply because of who got handed a life jacket and who was left to tread water.
Exactly. You cannot force them to agree on the story of the ship, because their survival mechanisms were totally different.
Holly needs to investigate why the ship sank to begin with, and Kendra just wants to be thankful she is on dry land.
The shipwreck analogy works beautifully, but let's push it even further.
Okay, push it.
It is not just that they had different experiences on the ship. It is that Kendra's ongoing mental survival literally depends on believing the captain was a hero.
Oh, wow.
Whereas Holly's healing depends on proving the ship was built to sink.
Right, because if Kendra admits Holly is right, her entire foundation of safety collapses.
Exactly. You cannot mandate a shared reality when the trauma responses are so diametrically opposed.
Wow. When you frame it like that, it makes complete sense why they cannot just grab a coffee and hash it out.
It is not about tabloid gossip anymore. It is about protecting their own sanity.
And later in the deep dive, we are going to talk about the shocking twist in where they stand right now. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss what is coming next.
Because where things stand today in 2026 is fascinating. Time hasn't necessarily brought them back together, but it has solidified their separate paths.
Right. Holly recently revealed exactly where they stand, and the contrast in their current lives is just huge.
Let's look at Holly first.
Yeah.
What is her current stance on the relationship?
Well, Holly says she holds no grudges. By meticulously going through old episodes of their show on her podcast, she is reclaiming her narrative.
So she is facing it head on.
Yeah. She has stated she isn't opposed to speaking with Kendra, but she also isn't chasing her down to clear the air.
She has found a sense of peace in just laying the facts out.
Exactly. And Bridget Marquardt remains this somewhat neutral middle ground, still closely bonded with Holly, but occasionally texting Kendra over the years.
And Kendra's life looks remarkably different today. She is completely pivoted.
Oh, completely.
She is 40 years old, a single mom to 2 kids, Hank and Elijah, and she is starring in Kendra Sells Hollywood as a real estate agent.
Which is such a massive shift from her 20s. And when she was recently asked by entertainment reporters about the possibility of a reunion with Holly and Bridget, she firmly, definitively shut it down.
Really? What did she say?
She gave this quote that I cannot stop thinking about. She said, "I have already done the healing off camera. I just don't connect anymore. It is like a high school buddy that you lost touch with."
Off camera, that is the most crucial part of her statement right there.
Why do you say that?
Because we live in a culture that increasingly demands public figures perform their trauma for our consumption.
Oh, that is so true.
If you suffer, the public expectation is that you write a book, go on a podcast tour, and mine your pain for content.
Yeah, turn it into a brand.
Exactly. So Kendra is making a radical choice to refuse that performance. By comparing them to high school buddies, she is setting an incredibly firm boundary.
She's stating that revisiting the past simply does not serve her present.
That is a profound point. She is also actively fighting back against internet trolls right now who are criticizing her for aging poorly.
People online can be so mean.
They really can. She recently posted about embracing her wrinkles, accepting her weight gain, and focusing strictly on her kids and her real estate passion.
She's basically saying, I am not the 19-year-old blonde character you want me to be anymore, and I refuse to play her.
And her pivot to real estate is highly symbolic here, if you think about it.
In what way?
In the mansion, she owned nothing. Her housing, her income, her entire lifestyle was completely contingent on her relationship with Hefner.
Oh my gosh, you are right.
Now she is literally making a living by selling houses. She has taken control of the very things she lacked agency over in her 20s, property and financial independence.
That is incredibly empowering. You know, my initial reaction going into this research was to try and figure out who was right and who was wrong in this feud.
Which is what everyone wants to do.
Yeah, but looking at the psychological reality of it, neither woman is wrong.
Not at all. There is no moral high ground in how you choose to survive and recover.
Holly finds power in exploring the past, turning it over, dissecting it, and speaking out. It gives her agency over a situation where she once felt powerless.
And Kendra finds her power in firmly closing the door, locking it, and refusing to look back. She finds strength in her tangible, present reality.
It is just two incredibly different survival strategies playing out on a massive public stage.
Absolutely.
I want you, listening right now, to think about your own life again. Have you ever had a friendship that felt incredibly deep, but was actually based entirely on proximity?
Like maybe a roommate or a coworker in a really high-pressure environment.
Right. You felt like you were bonded for life, but the second you removed yourselves from that specific pressure cooker, you realized you actually had nothing in common.
Removing the environment often removes the relationship.
It happens every day. But this exploration leaves us with one final, very provocative thought to mull over.
Let's return to the invisible hand of the producer, Kevin Burns.
The puppet master himself.
If there had not been an executive producer intentionally stoking their insecurities behind the scenes, if there had not been a massive financial incentive from the network to boost spin-off ratings through tabloid warfare,
would Holly and Kendra have naturally just drifted apart?
They might have. They might have just realized they were coworkers who had outgrown each other, sent each other Christmas cards for a few years, and faded out like normal people do.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, when we look back at modern pop culture history and all the iconic, explosive celebrity feuds we remember,
How many of them were actually genuine interpersonal conflicts?
and how many were simply manufactured tragedies engineered by an invisible producer pulling the strings just to secure a paycheck.
How much of what we consume as reality is just a pressure cooker intentionally designed to make the glass shatter?
It completely changes how you look at the media we consume. It is sobering thought and a perfect place to wrap up. You have been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and do not forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.